More dire predictions, though, about the impact of this virus and the impact it could have on the U.S. Here are some new numbers. A model which has been cited by the White House in the past is now predicting that almost 300,000 Americans could die by the beginning of December. But the makers of the model say that about 70,000 lives could be saved if 95% of us would just wear our masks when we leave our homes. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor is reporting the U.S. economy added 1.8 million jobs last month. That brings the country's unemployment rate to 10.2%. These numbers reflect some local and state governments pausing their reopening plans amid spikes in the coronavirus cases. We're going to dig into that later. In Washington, Democrats and Republicans are still at odds over what the next stimulus package should look like. The White House advisors said yesterday that the president could take executive action as soon as today to end the standstill. But that suggestion drew rebuke from Democrats.
The president's first choice is to do a deal. We've said that. If we conclude tomorrow that there's not a compromised position on the major issues, the president has alternatives and executive orders. But as he's instructed us, his first choice is to try to get legislation that will pass the House and the Senate.
An executive order will leave millions of people out. It will be litigated. It won't be effective, and things will get worse. So we urge them to rethink their position.
All right, so Weijia Jiang is standing by at the White House with us. You know, Weijia, the Democrats and the Republicans have been going back and forth, back and forth. They're really not getting anywhere. They're still sort of miles and miles apart when it comes to what this next stimulus bill should look like. I don't even think they're negotiating anymore. So now we have the president basically saying, listen, if you can't get it together, maybe I can do something. Well, what does an executive order from the president look like? Do we have any hints?
We do not, and that's because the president has not revealed those, although he has talked about how he could do this alone, especially if a deal is not reached, because he does have priorities, as we've been reporting, those unemployment benefits for tens of thousands of Americans, along with a payroll tax cut that he has talked about for quite a while. But we have to really see the text of the executive order before we understand how he plans to implement these measures. Because the other thing that we've been hearing about, in fact, we just heard from Treasury Secretary Mnuchin in that clip there, was that they were really banking on a deal with Congress. But after, 10 meetings over the course of several days, they were not able to do that. And as of today, there are no more formal talks on the schedule. But different advisors tell CBS News that, they could talk, that maybe there will be conversations on the phone or even in person, but we have to wait to see. Meanwhile, we're watching the president very closely because, again, he said that he could sign something as early as this afternoon.
It's just confounding to me that they have not continued their formal negotiations when, so many people are living, I was going to say paycheck to paycheck, but it's not paycheck to paycheck. It's stimulus check to stimulus check.
Correct.
And, and that money trickles down. That's sort of the life support that's keeping not just households afloat, but, local businesses afloat as well. All right, so we got new jobs numbers, and, it certainly indicates that there's been hiring going on, but it's slowing a little bit, as we've been talking about across the country where there have been spikes. Some governors have started to either roll back or slow their plans for reopening. Are we hearing anything from the White House reacting to the latest jobs numbers?
So President Trump has weighed in. He tweeted very shortly ago that, these are great numbers. And I can tell you that, chief economists here at the White House are characterizing this as a real victory and showing that the V-shaped recovery is still very much alive. Of course, that means, it collapses and then it's climbing back up again, not anticipating another dip, even though we don't really know what the future brings. Because when you talk to the health experts, they will very quickly say there could be a big second wave, especially if it collides with the seasonal flu season, and that could trigger another round of lockdowns. But certainly here at the White House, the word lockdown is not a good one, and they don't believe that's necessary if, we can take these other measures to practice social distancing and to mitigate and to try to control the virus. And so with regard to today's number, though, it really is viewed as a big win because they are better than expected. And, especially when we're talking about the manufacturing sector, they have pointed out that those numbers have been really strong along with construction and say, with the need for therapeutics and other medical supplies, and if we do get a vaccine, those numbers could again jump when it comes to manufacturing. But, I think what's important to remember is how many people are still without a job. And even though these numbers are better, they're still abysmal and people are struggling. And it's all connected because now they don't have those enhanced unemployment benefits. And so you're right, it's not just about paycheck to paycheck. It's about people that aren't getting a paycheck at all.
Great point. We could talk a lot on that topic, but there's so many other things to talk to you about, Weijia. The president signed an executive order that would ban any transactions with the parent company of TikTok. So making good on his threat to basically sort of shut down TikTok here in the U.S. What does that mean, this executive order? What does it mean for the impending or probable sale of TikTok? What does it mean for TikTok users?
Well, we definitely don't know what it means for users because we don't know how in practice he plans to, quote, close down TikTok. But this executive order, it does deem TikTok as a threat to national security, but it's pretty vague in terms of how he plans to control its use. We know that it says that it will ban any transactions with the parent company of TikTok, which is Chinese owned, and that's why there's so much skepticism from the administration. They claim that, the Chinese are storing personal data and using it and could possibly use it in a negative way, and they want to protect Americans. But TikTok is fighting back and saying that, even if the administration does not want to abide by the law, they will go to the courts if they have to. So basically, the president is saying there's 45 days between, now and in 45 days, if another company acquires TikTok, for example, Microsoft, then he won't ban it, if you will. But if it remains under ownership from this Chinese company, then he will. But again, we don't know what that will look like, and we don't know what that means for the several millions of users here in the U.S.
So, one could argue that maybe the president also has a little bit of a bone to pick with TikTok, but there have been ongoing conversations about the concern of China owning this parent company and whether or not the government could meddle. We also know that it was apparently a TikTok campaign encouraging people to sign up for his Tulsa rally and then not go that may have contributed to the lackluster showing. But then again, it's in the middle of the coronavirus, so I don't know. But this other app, WeChat, is finding itself in a similar position to TikTok. I hate to say this because it proves I'm not up on things, but I didn't even hear about WeChat until this. What's up with that?
So, well, WeChat is very, very popular in China, and it's very popular here for people who communicate with people in China. And it is an app that allows for messaging. It's pretty much very much like WhatsApp that allows you to do that in a more secure way. But because, again, the parent company is Chinese, the president signed an executive order against it as well. Very much, similar to the one he signed with TikTok, banning any transactions with that parent company. But again, we don't know what that means. Does it mean that you can't download it anymore from the Apple Store? Does it mean, if you're in the U.S., you won't be able to send messages, but will have access to the app? It's very confusing because we don't know the details. So, but I can say when you talk about transactions, it really, you're talking about financial ones. And so the Treasury Department would have to get involved. And so basically, and Maria, unfortunately, I don't have much information except, it is clear that the administration and President Trump are at least vowing to take actions against these Chinese companies as the tensions with China continue to increase, not only in this part of the relationship, but in almost all the other ones, too.
Indeed, to recognize that this is all happening within this trade war and war of words, and the president accusing China of being responsible for the spread of the coronavirus and all that stuff. Weijia Jiang, thank you.
Sure, thanks.